Conor Benn has allegedly left loyalty at the door and stepped into boxing's new money machine. Zuffa, Dana White, Netflix, and now a new opponent by Regis Prograis. Is this betrayal? Or is this simply sharp business? Or is this the moment that Netflix creates a true boxing villain? Let's talk about it. So there are so many narratives in this fight. There's so many narratives here. You have narrative one, Conor Benn signs a one-fight deal with Zuffa Boxing. And of course, Dana White is the head of Zuffa Boxing. He is the hierarchy. Then you have the second narrative, which is the collaboration with Netflix. So the Zuffa Boxing, Conor Benn collaboration with Netflix. And then you have the third narrative, which is a new opponent. Regis Prograis has been confirmed. Apologies if I have got the pronunciation incorrect there. And of course, we have the previous context. So we have the previous context. What is the previous context? Well, the deal that Conor Benn had with Zuffa Boxing has controversy. And that controversy revolves around the narrative of Conor Benn betraying Eddie Hearn. Questions. Because in boxing philosophy, we like to ask questions naturally. Is it betrayal? Is it really betrayal, or is it just business? Are there any true friends in boxing? Or are you only supposed to be loyal to your family? Think of this. Boxing is not a product of loyalty. It's a product of what you negotiate. Loyalty in this sense is just such a rare currency. Perhaps that's why loyalty is so valuable. And of course, one could make a compelling argument that loyalty is subjective, because who are you loyal to? Who are you loyal to? Are you only loyal to your family? Are you loyal to your friends? Are you loyal to your business partners? Are you loyal to your associates? Because loyalty isn't just black and white. It's multifarious. There are various moving parts. So that's the question. Who are you loyal to? Because in life and in boxing, there's various narratives, and within various narratives, there's various ways of looking at things. So the loyalty narrative is an important narrative. It's an important narrative, but it's not the only narrative. That would be false. And we have some questions here. The obvious questions is this a good move for Conor Benn? And is this a good move for Zuffa Boxing? And of course, is Regis a good opponent for Conor Benn? Because he will be essential. He will be an essential part of the actual event. And we will address Regis later in the video. We will give that some proper attention. What does Conor Benn bring to the ring? What does he bring to the ring? In a sense, he brings excitement in the ring and outside the ring. In the ring, he is explosive. He has the ability to score knockouts. This is what the casual fans like to see. He brings entertainment. And when we ask about what is boxing, in a major sense, boxing is entertainment. Boxing is entertainment, and boxing is heavily linked with capitalism, and entertainment is part of that equation. Against Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn played the villain role exceptionally well, intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. Of course, many would see Chris Eubank Jr. as a master marketer, maybe a marketing genius, but Conor Benn was a great dancing partner. The Chris Eubank Jr. fights, what did they show? They showed the worth of Conor Benn, and this is supported by the numbers. Conor Benn is, in a sense, part of the boxing British algorithm, or part of the boxing algorithm, and he has the numbers to support the economic value. What I'm saying is this: Conor Benn brings a lot to the table. So at the table, Conor Benn brings a lot. Zuffa Boxing and Netflix will only work with you if you bring not only something to the table, but a lot to the table. Think of this. If you run a business, you want to employ workers that bring value to the company. A salesperson that makes a company 5K a month, 10K a month, 15K a month, they will have a tremendous amount of value, And similarly, Conor Benn, within the boxing context, is the £1 million machine. He's the multi-million-pound machine, and therefore he brings massive amounts of value. So also we can ask the question, what is the benefit to Zuffa Boxing? What is the benefit to Zuffa Boxing? Initially, when I looked at this fight, I assumed a strong pay-per-view strategy. But that changed when the Netflix involvement was confirmed. Why did it change? Well, it changed because pay-per-view is not part of the Netflix business model. And therefore, if Zuffa Boxing is collaborating with Netflix, that takes away the pay-per-view angle. But what is the benefit of working with Netflix? Well, I'm assuming there'll be a rights fee paid by Netflix. I don't think the numbers of that is disclosed, but with Netflix, you got the benefit of global reach and a massive awareness. And I feel that Zuffa Boxing, they're playing the long-term strategy. They're not playing the short strategy. They're playing the long-term strategy of creating huge awareness deep within the boxing consciousness and deep within the general consciousness. This, like I said, it's a potential long-term play. It may be a collaboration play because there's a collaboration or a partnership with Netflix, whichever one you would like to say. And in a sense, there's different characters here. There's Zuffa Boxing, there's Netflix, and there's Conor Benn. And when we talk about Netflix, what do we think of? Well, in one sense, we think about, great films and great series, but Netflix are operating, they're functioning in the boxing jungle. But within that boxing jungle, and I think jungle is the operative word, they have a different ecosystem and different rules. So, for example, Netflix, they don't have a weekly ecosystem or a daily ecosystem, and they don't have a pay-per-view model. This causes a distinction between them and, say, DAZN. It's a different system. Perhaps it's an innovative system. It's a fan-friendlier system, perhaps. It's a visionary long-term play. And with this long-term play, there's lots of money on the table, and there's a lot to gain, but there's a lot to lose. It's a chess game. When you think of the game of chess, a beautiful game, it represents strategy. It represents a game where there's winners and there's losers. And this game of boxing is being played, well, it's a game of chess and it's a game of capitalism at the highest level. So Zuffa Boxing have a long-term awareness strategy and perhaps an effective collaboration. But let's talk about Regis. How good of an opponent is he? And let's remember and acknowledge that he will play an important part of this event because he's going to be the one that will be getting in the ring. If he boxes defensively, what happens? Well, this affects the perception. But if he boxes offensively, even a loss in an exciting fight can open more economic doors. And here's a question. What is a good opponent for Zuffa Boxing? Zuffa Boxing's philosophy, from my perspective or from my understanding, is exciting fights. In a sense, they want Rocky Marcianos, not defensive geniuses like Floyd Mayweather. And just for the record, Floyd Mayweather, or should I say Rocky Marciano, is a great fighter. He's a great fighter, like Floyd Mayweather. But Rocky Marciano was entertaining and perhaps, or definitely, one of the bravest boxers of all time. But let's get back to the program. Regis, in his prime, was a heavy left-handed fighter. He's a heavy left-handed fighter, he's a southpaw, and he's a sharp counterpuncher. And in his prime, he had a fan-favorite style. If you were to give him an identity, you would say he is a patient counterpuncher. But what is the risk of this fight? Well, the risk of this fight is that Regis has the ability to slow the fight down, punish mistakes, and this could result in the fight not being entertaining if he's able to be effective with that strategy. So is this good matchmaking? Well, if they've caught Regis at the right time, this could be great matchmaking for a sensational Conor Benn victory. But there's a problem. Timing in boxing is often a faulty science. Think of this. If this is an explosive affair, everyone wins, potentially. Netflix, Zuffa Boxing, Conor, and even Regis. But if it's a technical bout without excitement, then potentially everyone loses. So there's a lot at stake. So you can make an argument, and I think you can make a compelling argument, that there's a level of credibility for this fight for Conor Benn. Because when you look at Regis, you have a former world champion, and he has a name value and he has credibility. And the premise here is that credibility is important within the boxing context. The criticisms here, though, could be that you're taking Regis and you're taking an opponent that's 140 pounds and you're ensuring that they fight at 150 pounds. And this potentially could compromise them because that is not their natural limit. That's not their natural weight limit. And here is another thing to ponder. Is it okay to fight opponents but then compromise them? And does this actually compromise Regis? And some will see this as a pattern. Why will they see this as a pattern? Because the Chris Eubank fights, one of the main narratives in the Chris Eubank fights was the weight and the rehydration clauses. The problem here is that public perception is that Eubank's performance was a product of rehydration rather than Conor Benn's IQ, particularly in the rematch. YouTube comments, if you look at various YouTube comments, they suggest that Conor is a bit of a villain, and there's a lot of disdain and distrust or mistrust from the British public. Think of this. Negotiating an advantage is an intelligent thing to do. But when the negotiation is too effective, does it rob you of a victory? So when Conor Benn fought Chris Eubank Jr., there was clearly some effective negotiation on Conor Benn's side. But was the negotiation too effective, and did it actually rob him of a solid victory that he deserved? I think it's a good question, and I think it's a valid question to ponder. It's important to acknowledge here that Regis has pedigree. He has a good CV. I mean, he's been in there with Josh Taylor, he's been in there with Devin Haney, he's been in there with Jack Catterall, all champions. What does this mean? What does this mean? It means that Regis has fought at an elite level. He's fought at a very high level. And Regis brings stuff to the party. He brings fast hands, he brings good head movement, he brings good power, and he brings a wealth of experience. That means an upset is possible. However, we must concede that matchmaking and the A side are in Conor Benn's favour. Regis is, after all, 37 years old, and in this weight category, that is a significant factor. However, if Regis can get into the fight, we might be able to assess Conor Benn's level. It's important to acknowledge that in boxing, there are different levels. There is British level, there is European level, there's the contender level, there's the championship level, there's the elite level. And within that, there's levels within the levels, etc., etc., etc. Objectively, we don't know where Conor Benn level is. We don't know where his level is. Is he that good? Is he elite? Or is he just a good boxer? Or is he just a decent boxer? I think it would be a great outcome if we can find out what level Conor Benn's level is, if you get what I'm saying. And there are other questions here. Will Zuffa Boxing get a long-term payback on their investment? Because if this is a successful venture, the Conor Benn business will continue to grow. It will continue to grow exponentially. Think of this. Effective business is making money through the front door and the back door. Let me repeat that. Effective business is about making money through the front door and the back door. And we will see if the Conor Benn business machine returns money through the front door and through the back door. So here is a narrative bias. Here is a narrative bias that has a definite element of truth. Conor Benn, despite all the controversy, is a success story. He has succeeded in a sport, in a brutal sport, where many people fail. He is the talk of the town. He is the meal ticket. He is the machine, an effective machine. He is the bank, or at least part of the bank. And he is a massive part of the British boxing algorithm. And from that perspective, Conor Benn should be very proud of his achievements. But will Conor Benn be the true Netflix villain? Will he return on the investment from Zuffa Boxing? The narrative bias sounds compelling, and sooner rather than later, we will find out the answer to those questions. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community. That means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, if you want to support, all you need to do is like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content, then all you have to do is click here or click here. As always, thank you for your time. It is much appreciated. Peace.